All right. So there's a lot of information, disinformation, all types of perceptions of what viruses are, what's going on in the population, why people are having such issues with cancer, disease, chronic illness, autoimmune disorders, and even died suddenly. And so there's going to be disputes and arguments on what viruses are because there's so many perceptions on what viruses are. And there is the Google and NIH and government, actual government explanation that is tied in with science. And if people are anti-science, if people are anti PhD, anti-academic definitions, then they're going to go turn to the allegorical definitions. And the word poison has so many different meanings to it. The word poison is a perception on how something affects somebody else. And so if a food affects you in a specific way that maybe you have an allergic reaction to, not because the food's poison, because you have already lack of nutrition and the body wants to push something out, you're going to think that food is poison. You're going to think that food has something in it that's not supposed to. No, you could be lacking in nutrition, lacking in an arsenal to push out the demons. And if you're already stopping your body from pushing out the demon, so to speak, then any kind of reaction your body has, you will deem as poison. And so that's an allegory. Poison is an allegory because poison is all relative to the intention, relative to how you perceive what pain and suffering is. The word poison means different things to different people. And so if you really want to use the word poison, anyone that gives you some kind of reaction, to their microbes and energy, you will think they are poison. And if you don't want to look at your friends and family as poison, then you'll find the nearest thing that you think is what's causing your cancer, disease, and chronic illness and autoimmune disorders. And so that's the world that we live in, is the Tower of Babel. We're dealing with allegory, we're dealing with science, we're dealing with anti-government, pro-government. We're dealing with so many storylines that people choose to live by, and you can't talk people out of the storylines they hold. You could try, but it's just like butting heads with someone when it comes to religion. If they believe one way and you believe another way, what do you think? You're going to convert somebody? This person, when I put in the word, the RH negs probably are in touch with the paranormal and probably have a lot more immune system activation. Some people are born with higher frequencies due to their DNA RH factor. And then this gentleman says virus, noun, etymon line. Late 14th century, poisonous substance, a sense now archaic. It's archaic. From Latin virus, poison, SAP of plants, slimy liquid, a potent juice. From proto-italic poison, which is probably from pi root, perhaps originally meaning to melt away, to flow, use of foul or malodorous fluids, but with specialization in some languages to poisonous fluids. Source also of Sanskrit. Venom poison, visa, poisonous. Avestin, vish, poison. Latin, viscum, sticky substance, birdlime. Greek, ios, poison. Ixos, mistletoe, birdlime. Old Church, Slavonic, cherry, Old Irish, poison. Remember, now we're getting into what people thought back in the 14th century, late 14th century. What, you want to go all the way back to late 14th century to go back at what people were thinking what a virus was a poison? No. Back then, that's what they thought it was. But remember, when you are looking up information, latest information, when people have one perception 500 years ago, you think that same perception actually still is relevant today? No. Evolution happens. People now realize that they can't be racist. They can't assume that this food is poison or that food is poison. New information comes up, new findings, new research, new ways of looking at things. And so when someone gives me a 14th century description or definition, I'm like, okay, so you want to go live back in the 14th century when they were cutting people's organs out and using, using, oh gosh, bleeding people, using parasites to suck the blood out of people. You really want to go back to the 14th century? Is that really where you want to go back to? And so now you got to look at that viruses, they're the ghosts. You know, I'm going to tell this guy, David Dalby, your definition is as old as some people's perceptions of the world. 14th century has evolved from then, okay? I don't look at old NIH findings from like 20 years ago when they've found other information that has superseded what they have originally thought. Okay? And so you really have to look at the dates of what it is that the definitions are referring to. And if it's something that's from the 14th fucking century, well, you're a little bit too little too late. It's not relevant anymore. All right? Viruses are ghosts of people. The dead and the living. Your friends and your family around you, attacking you. And if you don't want to look at the fact that your friends and family are attacking you at the micro level, you will find a patsy, and people do. And that's fine. Because it's not I don't care what you do. I have no incentive to keep you alive or cause you harm. I'm just passing on information. If you want to believe a story out there that's from the 14th century, by all means, have at it. I'm not getting in your way. And so then when you succumb to whatever you think is, you'll be like, yeah, it was the crown. It was the corona, the crown that did it. It was in all the V's. See why you can't save people, guys? This is why because you'll be stuck in a war of perception, and a war of definition, and a war of the old world, old from the 14th century. That's what you're dealing with. 14th century people that haven't evolved. That's what you're dealing with. And you'll see it when you see what that person posted as a comment. And they had to insult me too in the process. That's what you're dealing with. 14th century mentalities. When they were doing some evil shit to other people. Torture. Okay? They were doing some evil, middle-aged, draconian shit back in the 14th century. And they're using 14th century types of definitions. And so when people haven't evolved and won't evolve, you can't make them evolve. So let them have the storyline. Because I could give a shit. But I want you to see that we have some pretty old souls out there that haven't evolved and will not be able to handle this new world or even newer definitions of an evolution of what we thought was so. Okay, we're in now the 21st century. I'm not going to be looking at 14th century definitions of shit. But those who don't want to evolve, those who are resisting everything out there, they will go back to the fucking 12th century. They'll go back to fucking Gilgamesh and say this is how the world should be. Back in Gilgamesh, back in the Sumerian pantheon. Hey, by all means, you won't survive this new world. But hey, if you want to live back in the 14th, 12th, 1st century, way back in BC, Imhotep days where they're carving shit out and they're not using anesthesia, by all means. But you don't put your hands on anyone. You don't do anything to anyone. You do it on yourself and let the system deal with you. But that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with some people who have not evolved, will not evolve, and they will resist the hell out of you and try to destroy you if possible. That's the world you live in. Good luck.